And we're live. Excellent. So, from steps to success, join us as we explore the Silk Road's tech scene. Welcome to SiliconSteppes, the podcast that's all about the heartbeat of Central Asia's tech startups and industry, where we dive into the future of innovation, one exciting discussion at a time. I'm your host, Tony, and today we are exploring the world of AI, all the ins and outs. We've got quite a lineup of guests with us and who I would say are at the forefront of AI innovation within their respective industries. They're here to share their insights and experiences and maybe a few trade secrets. Let's meet them. Joining us from Dubai, we have Oybek Daniryov and David O'Sullivan from Carve. They work towards, what really do you do? Digital solutions, correct?
Yeah, so Carve is a digital agency. We essentially work with our clients across a stream of different digital transformation projects, and also that then tips us in from an AI point of view to actually utilizing tools across tech projects that we kind of set up.
Thanks. And next we have Artem Panferov, founder and CEO of Encode Studio. At the moment, he has quite a project going on, AI Labs, and it's a venture dedicated to business optimization through artificial intelligence. Artem, welcome.
Thank you. Мы в Uncode занимаемся разработкой мобильных приложений. За последний год активно начали использовать нейросети в своей работе для написания технических заданий, для переработки огромного количества текстового материала при работе с заказчиками, при разработке самих приложений, при написании кода. И все полученные навыки решили перенести в новый проект Encode AI Lab, где помогаем бизнесам встраивать искусственный интеллект в их бизнес-процессы там, где это возможно.
Thanks, Artem. We look forward to speaking to you more later. Next, we have Abdul Sharapov from Sarma Lab and TechStand's podcast. Abdul, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so what we do at Sarma Labs is we build new B2B AI products for a focus on Central Asian market. Where this comes from is I was previously a venture investor at a few funds and did about more than 25 deals. But the problem we have here is that not enough local founders really struggle to get their products up to the seed stage. So that's what we're trying to assist with, and kind of come in as founders ourselves, the co-founders in that process with them. That's what we do.
That's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Nisa Kamaireva, a renowned researcher in AI, and she's here to provide a unique academic perspective.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming, Nisa. And let's begin. So first, let's take a quick look at what we're seeing now in the world. We're seeing I wouldn't say it's a revolution, but AI is becoming at the forefront of almost every discussion in every sphere. I'd like to hear from each of you about how you see AI reshaping your respective fields. David and Oybek, would you like to go first?
Sure, of course. Maybe I can kind of do a little bit of an introduction from the digital transformation, the e-commerce side of things. But essentially what we're seeing, and you're absolutely right, it's not as if AI is kind of switched on just yesterday. It's something that's been sort of implemented in projects and been happening in the background. We've actually seen it in digital transformation projects across e-commerce projects for years now. And typically that kind of goes into a point of utilizing AI or using AI as a tool to maybe disseminate information and do things a bit quicker than humans can do it. So, you still need that human element a lot of the times to actually, make recommendation perhaps and things like that. I think what has been quite new within generative AI is that we're kind of in a position where, generative AI is also making a lot of those recommendations or certainly giving us a lot of those kind of outcomes. And we're kind of in a position at the moment where we're actually seeing those, not just in a business sense, but people are using AI day to day, whether that's in school and kind of using GPTs to kind of put forward kind of content for us. But from a business sense, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, where people can take GPTs, for example, and actually help them to, perhaps use content or construct content in places where they might not have done it before or not necessarily got involved in it previously. So I know that we're kind of using it for our clients, but we're also using it for Carve, and it's helping us to actually provide content and information around products, and it's saving us a vast amount of times and kind of putting that sort of stuff together. So yeah, definitely it's something which is here at the moment. We're working on within projects, but also always utilizing ourselves. Maybe Oybek, you got something to perhaps add to that on that side? Oh, I think you're on mute, Oybek.
Yeah. We also use in development as well. It kind of helps us to, quick develop the structure of the project. We use some CMSs that generate, we can build some structure for the projects. Also, like at the moment, we're working on a tool that helps us to generate like a sitemap and then the content structure of our projects. It's still in development, but it's something that helps us, to deliver projects as quick as possible, and it saves a lot of time. Yeah, and one of the advantages of generative AI is that it can contain your structured content that you can then utilize and integrate to different type of tools. Yeah. So that's one of the things we kind of do internally in our company.
Thanks, David and Oybek. Well, Artem, what about you? How do you utilize AI within your sphere?
Есть множество направлений, где мы используем нейросети сейчас. Самые активные — это генерация контента, генерация текста. Очень помогает сокращать, как я и сказал раньше, время на написание технических заданий для новых продуктов. Помогает точнее определять риски, анализировать довольно большие объемы данных, которые мы используем. Ну и, конечно же, некоторые продукты, такие как сейчас у нас новый продукт Таскобот, который позволяет сократить количество человеческого участия в коммуникации с клиентами. Наш новый продукт позволяет уменьшить долю неинтересных человеческих занятий, например, менеджерской работы на хороший процент и сократить затраты бизнеса на менеджеров по продажам, либо на время, которое они затрачивают.
Thanks, Artem. Well, Abdul, do you have anything that you think is relatively interesting about the implications or the applications of AI within what you do at Sarmo?
Well, from day one, we've been focused on specifically because in the region, the qualified AI engineers are hard to come by, but there's still like a big treasure trove of data that we've come across. So we saw that with my CTO. So he studied abroad, so there's a master's in AI. So he's one of the unique, I guess, Uzbek specialists in this field. So one of the few. So we've basically been, trying to work with these access data that we have and trying to build out models that we can then go to market with and then, productize and, help bring value from that. That's sort of been the way we approach it. And we work mostly with, so we started with, of course, like ChatGPT, but then we also work a lot with open source models as well. And it's gotten very easy to work with new models like Mixtral, and Facebook just came out with Code Llama 2, and it's wonderful to see, every week there's just constantly some new model coming out that's and it's very easy to work with it, and so we're training more and more kind of junior ML engineers as well. So with my CTO is kind of architecting of these models, the junior guys can kind of work with fine tuning and learning how to train these models themselves. And, we've had pretty good results with that. They can pick up things fairly quickly, and so that's how we're sort of approaching things.
Well, you just mentioned that like you're trying to get value from this. Does the value change on the product if you say that it's been created or helped along with AI, or it uses AI? How does the value then change?
Well, the value is entirely derived from the language models, right? I mean, so by the way it interacts with, and it's able to harness new insights from the data, right? So that's where that's what's entirely reliant on. And I mean, the space that I work in, I mean, I've been in the venture space, so working directly with startups. It's I mean, it's been entirely upended in the past year by AI. So I mean, it's the hottest new vertical for us to invest in as well, on the fund side. And so yeah, it's I mean, it's not news anymore, I think. But yeah, like, so that's sort of how I'd put it.
Interesting. We can explore that a little bit more a bit later on. Asror, thanks for joining us. Everybody, this is Asror from Silk Road Innovation Hub.
Hi,
He's my
everyone.
co-host at this
Sorry I'm
podcast.
late. I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad you could make it. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, everybody was sharing how they are implementing AI in what they do. We're not implementing AI other than just using ChatGPT or one of the co-pilots which are available to increase productivity, like in our work in general. But other than that, what we're trying to do, we're trying to write small checks to exceptional talents from our region doing something exceptional here in Silicon Valley. For now, these are small checks because we have very small limited resources, but we're also raising a venture fund from where we're going to be investing more.
And the startups that you're looking for from the region, do you have a general preferred interest in those that are within the AI sphere?
If you meant by, are you specifically looking for AI startups? No, that's not the thesis of our the investment strategy or the VC firm which we're building right now. The thesis would be exceptional talent with background from our region. The 8 countries we work with, we call Central Eurasia. So as long as they are doing something exceptional and they are themselves exceptional, so we're going to be backing those founders at very early stages.
Super early stages. Excellent. Well, Niso, this brings us to you.
Yep. It's undeniable that the power of technology companies in overall in the political and geopolitical spheres is undeniable. So, for example, heading out without Google Maps, or in my case, city mappers that we use, is definitely brave. Or, for example, ignoring credit score can be foolish today. Or running for political office without predictive models, using predictive models on what is actually the trends right now is kind of impossible. So the question is now is what kind of world this technology might help build, and who gets to decide the answer to this question? Definitely. And so, for example, there's a threat that the absence of talent or knowledge or ownership over AI creates a spiral in which skills, investment, and capacity flow out of the public sector, and governments became dependent on big tech monopolies. Now, I would love to discuss that further.
Well, then let's quickly move into the next part, which is the challenges and ethical considerations. I mean, this has been at the forefront of a lot of discussions now, and recently they had big talks on regulation of AI within the European community as well as in the US. As like that was more in terms of like autonomous AI within weaponry and warfare as well, which is a bit scary when you think of like Terminator and some of those other movies that are really quite post-apocalyptic. But this is important things that we need to address is this is something that we have to embrace and move forward, is AI. We cannot progress within our respective industries without it right now. It's become kind of the backbone of everything. So Oybek and David, for you, what are the main challenges that you are facing within its use and implementation? And how do you address any of those ethical concerns that arise?
Maybe I can just sort of start and come away from the Terminator bit, but actually talk around kind of things that have been in the kind of public sphere at the moment. I don't know if anyone's seen stories around Taylor Swift, for example, who's kind of been in the media recently. You know, people are deep faking her appearance or kind of taking her appearance and using that in ways that she's obviously not very happy with. But it's one of those things that we kind of live in a place where people have access to things that can help them create, create product or create content, which might not be true. It might not be something that we want to see online. So it does create a lot of potential kind of issues and problems on that side. I think the sorts of things that we want to be very careful about is ensuring that the content that we're being provided is real, that it isn't fake news, it isn't that sort of thing. So I think what it does is opens up the question. I know governments are looking into this and people are looking at legislation. I think social media platforms really need to kind of nail down very quickly on what they can identify and remove if it's not necessarily the truth that's out there. So I think as long as kind of there is an awareness and not just governments but businesses are able to identify or certainly put checks in place to identify and remove content that might not be real, then I think that's going to be something that needs to be addressed very quickly, because as everybody said, this is now AI is forming part of everything we do. People are being educated into it, people are seeing how they can utilize it, and that's not always for the greater good, which I think, AI is an extremely powerful tool for all of us, particularly within business at the moment. And we're seeing some amazing results with it. But yeah, we ethically need to be in a position to, put some rules in place that kind of help us to utilize it for what might be best for everybody. Oybek?
Yeah, there's a small comment. I think there's a lot of way behind to reach the Terminator area, because generative AI is still provides the content based on the content it's been fed, right? So one of the issues it might come up that the content might be biased, or it can the ability of the content. And one of the issues with generative AI is that most of the content is generated is trained based on the content exists on the web, right? So one of the issues also might come up in the future, like what if all the content that has been generated by AI gets fed back to the AI, right? In this case, it will start eating its own, the quality will get reduced as well. So that's one of the issues might come up in the future as well. It's like a snake eating its own tail. So.
Well, that's also part of the discussion they had with the ChatGPT and the New York Times, correct? Where they used their content to train the language model to write news articles, and more news agencies were using that to create their own content. So there's that ethical consideration too, is taking someone's copyrighted material and kind of stealing their format. And there's more news agencies now that are also creating their own avatars of their reporters to create AI newsreels. So there's also that consideration to take into account, is who owns that image. For me, that's one thing I'm always curious about, is if I decide to create an AI for my work, perhaps even for here, I can train it to speak like me, to use my voice, my mannerisms, but I do not own that. I cannot own that part of me. So for me, that's quite scary. And as you said, like with Taylor Swift, with the deep fakes, it's also that image can then be used further and further to more nefarious ends. Well, with that, we have a lot of problems. What solutions does anybody have in mind on how to battle any of this? How can you ensure that everyone is using it ethically?
I mean, I guess one of the points from that side is transparency, right? So if there are tools that are being created, it has to be done in a certain way that people can see how those tools are being released or how they're being used. So as long as there's kind of that open transparency, that's certainly one step in the right direction to showcase how our AI can be used correctly.
And how do we then see, is there anything within AI that we feel like startups should be leaning towards and embracing more? Perhaps Asrur, you could have, or Abdul have some insights on that, or even Artem.
Yeah, I can add. Startups should be embracing whatever the market requires them to embrace, whatever they feel like the next big thing is. They should be, of course, considering the ethical part of the question, but that's totally dependent on the startups, how they want to continue with their work. Because like the decision of a one person, which might in the future become this generational company, like Wikipedia couldn't easily like not happen with one decision, right? A person came up and he changed everything for us. Like nowadays, everyone, like from the years when I was doing my bachelor's degree, on like all the professors kept repeating, Wikipedia is not an accurate source of information, but in fact it is. Like the accuracy of the information on Wikipedia, the check processes available there is much more accurate than some of the news media outlets we receive our information from. So that's there. And also on the issue of now everybody keeps, I think in my mind, everybody is questioning like considering the option of like, there was like, like Yudkovsky, the professor Yudkovsky and other guys who were considering like nuking the models being trained. But I think it's not that extreme, because if we consider what is available right now, the Meta AI head Jan LeCun was saying on the World Economic Forum that like consider the information which is available for us now we are now using all the text available right now, and this information is all the information a 4-year-old child sees with his eyes up until he's 4 years old. Like consider all the information which we're training our models on. So after we move on to the next stage, which is the optical reception, like by giving the eye senses, the vision or whatever, we allow it to explore more. The information which we have is very little in consideration. So in the future, it's not only the information which we feed to AI, it's available, it's going to start learning the world, how we learn, how a child learns the world. So I wouldn't worry about all the things available, like all the problems right now. And especially, it's not a good thing to start worrying too much about everything and creating laws on something where we are at day one or even day zero.
Can I maybe just add
Sure.
in from you'd mentioned around kind of like how startups can kind of utilize and kind of be in a position to get on the back of AI, and how can that help them with their business, I guess, which is, from our perspective, what we're kind of seeing is AI and GPTs are a great opportunity essentially to give voice to perhaps businesses that haven't had that voice before. And I think in an environment where we are as a world just always adding and consuming content and putting things out there, AI is a fantastic tool to be able to put across messages, or certainly open up messages, particularly for business. We utilize things like LinkedIn and GPT for us as busy kind of owners of businesses. I don't necessarily have time to employ a writer to do all the content for me all the time. I have things that I would like to get out to the local community or talk to my local kind of community about. And these kind of tools help us to, I think, get conceptually something out of our brain onto a piece of paper or virtual paper, as long as we're kind of utilizing our knowledge and we what, because sometimes you see the sort of stuff that's quite obviously been written by by ChatGPT. But what it I think does is create a place where we can kind of get our thoughts into a piece of content and then utilize our expertise to then kind of actually remove what might not be appropriate or put things in. I think it's a better starting point for a lot of people to get that message out there. And I know because business owners have a lot of time doing all sorts of things when they're setting up, that this for me is an area. And I know that between myself and Oibek, it's something which, I think from a technical point of view, seeing Oibek able to kind of get things out to the market around what he's trying to say is technically great. People can see things technically, he can talk about code, but sometimes, it might engage with a wider audience if he can translate that into a more readable document for perhaps marketing teams and things like
that. May I add?
Yeah.
I do believe that we do need certain policies and regulations specifically on AI because we have two major issues with that, is that the data that AI consumes may not be of the high quality, and that can produce very low quality information and predictions, for example. And B is the threat of data collection, that many of us do not even know that without consent, it can collect enough data about us and then produce the outcomes based for big commercial businesses that can be used for the consumers basically without our consent. That's not how it should be working, and we should be worried about the future, specifically with the regulation and policies, especially with the privacy. And AI is not something that we should be afraid of. AI is just a tool that is behaving based on the patterns, based on the history. So we have to focus more on the biases, more on the data itself, on the quality of the data that we give to AI, rather than just letting go by the flaw, because AI is developing very fast and we're on a fast track. So we should be very careful at the same time, even though we're embracing the changes.
That, for me, is quite apt, is to embrace changes, work through it, but then, as David pointed out, is that transparency is needed as well to ensure the ethical use of everything, and so that our users or your users know how their information is being used within the various models that you're implementing. Well, this kind of inadvertently segues us into where we see the future. What's next in AI and digital marketing? What's next in AI for business development? What's next in AI and how it relates to VCs? There's a lot of considerations that we have to take into account now. Abdul, would you like to go first and talk a little bit about like the considerations you'd put into place in terms of how it works with VCs?
Yeah. I think going back to that point about, where startups should employ it, it's ultimately about, is it really relevant? If your startup already has a product, and do your customers really need this? And it's all about, making, having that fit for your customers, right? Is it bringing value to them? That's ultimately what it comes down to, right? Because one example we had with our process of venture building was that we built an English speaking evaluator tool, and it got a lot of users, and it wasn't very difficult to develop and all, but with the GPT store, it's pretty much defunct. That's how fast the whole the pace of things are moving, right? But it's only outdated in the rest of the world where people have access to the GPT store, right? So for example, if you pay $20 for ChatGPT Plus, then you can of course access something like what we've built, right? But for example, in other markets, like for example in Uzbekistan, where people are not paying that much for ChatGPT Plus, it would make sense for them. Plus, on top of that, to work with like tutoring centers that teach English. That's where that's where you should really find your niche. So that's where we found ours, right? So we, instead of getting competed out, like outcompeted, and having our product made useless, we decided to just focus on where we can monetize and bring value in the end to the user, right? Because whether the GPT store is out there or not, it's like, still the people who are trying to practice their speaking and understand their level, right? They still would find our tool more useful than going there, right? Because it's accessible through Telegram and through the learning center they go to, the tutoring centers. So that's where I've realized where there's like, that's how you should operate, right? So it's by integrating with businesses that instead, wouldn't want to send their like customers to the GPT store, right? They would instead want something that integrates with their own app, right? So if you offer an API or something like that. So that's maybe one lesson to think about of like, really bringing your product out to the users, whether it uses how much AI it uses or not, right? You have to kind of make that, kind of plug that gap.
So definitely finding a niche within the gap within the industry and really sticking to that.
Absolutely.
Well then, Artem, how do you see AI being used now with the business development and those solutions that you would implement with your new project?
Мне кажется, что в ближайшее время процессы в разработке и в текущих бизнес-процессах очень сильно изменятся, и мы сейчас даже не понимаем, насколько они изменятся. В том плане, что те вещи, которые уже сейчас интегрируются в бизнес-процессы при разработке, они довольно сильно меняют ландшафт того, что было студией разработки или отделом разработки раньше. Разработчики уже работают гораздо быстрее благодаря ChatGPT, Copilot. Они выполняют гораздо больше операций. Уровень, требуемый для того, чтобы начать заниматься разработкой, сильно снижается. У нас есть кейсы, когда к нам приходили сотрудники, которые не имели никакого отношения к IT до трудоустройства к нам, но благодаря чату GPT подтягивали свой навык до уровня junior плюс специалиста за крайне короткие сроки, буквально месяцы. И это только начало, первый по факту год, когда мы имеем эту технологию, и она уже изменила нашу жизнь. Поэтому мне кажется, что мир разработки очень сильно изменится. Low-code технологии, AI-технологии, все эти вещи приведут нас к чему-то новому и крайне интересному.
Oybek, do you mind giving a brief summary, please?
I will do my best. So the quick summary that in the near future, the process of business integration to the business is going to change a lot, and we cannot even imagine the majority of changes will happen. And one of the cases, for example, using some ChatGPT tools and copilots has increased the productivity of developers and also reduced the entry level for developers into the market. So they had some cases when developers with junior level of development could, enter the market and then present themselves as a senior because of this the tools they use. And also the new one of the new stages that will improve is low code, and usage of the low code and the AI will bring a lot of new changes. Yeah, something like this is the summary.
That's a little bit worrying that like within the last couple of years, Google and Facebook, they have done a lot of layoffs within their staff. And the fact that you now have people who have less experience than those that are able to kind of fill in those positions for a lot less money doesn't bode well for people who have really put in the effort to become developers and study hard to get to where they are. Do you see any, how do you feel like that's going to influence the industry and the way things are going then?
It's a question for...
It could be for you, Oybek. It could be for Art.
If you don't mind, I will also give my some point of this. And in terms of using the AI in development, even if you use AI like Copilot and other tools, at the end of the day, it's all depends on your experience. Yes, AI can help you to generate the code, but that code is useless unless you have an experience. You can generate the code, you can add to the project, but generative AI is not that powerful to generate the entire application because they have a limit of the tokens that the tokens that it use tokens to have a limit on the memory buffer they can use. So at some point when it starts generating the content or the code, it forgets what was in the past, and unless you use some other tools and submit embed data and then keep the memory in place. But it kind of helps you to speed up to the learning process. It helps you to speed up some certain amount of tasks. For example, in my field, what I do if I want to generate some quick database structure for the project, right? I will just go to the AI and then it will help me to generate the basic structure. But at the end of the day, I will have to spend like a few more hours to polish it out and to make sure that everything is well connected. So it's not like you write the code and you copy paste. There's a lot of time it doesn't work. But I started using AI before ChatGPT. There was like a Tabby 9 tool that you could integrate into the editor, and it kind of helps you to speed up the writing process. So you don't have to write entire code. It quickly generates you the portion of the code that you can review it and then decide to add or not. So this kind of stuff can help you to speed up the development process. So that's my input on this state.
Well, Artem, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Можешь вкратце сформулировать вопрос?
Вопрос был...
Если я правильно понял, ты спрашиваешь... Насколько что?
Ну, как это пугает то, что девелоперы начинают использовать AI, и то, что сам процесс разработки становится, как сказать, что новые люди, которые, безопытные люди, которые входят в маркет, и как это может изменить вообще ландскейп?
В первую очередь это снижает стоимость самой разработки, потому что на рынке есть огромное количество потребностей в разработке, в продуктах. У каждого предпринимателя в любом бизнесе есть огромное количество идей, как можно цифровизовать свой бизнес, какие вещи можно разработать. И для большинства из них не нужны сильные разработчики, а достаточно будет простых типовых решений для уровня как раз-таки junior, middle, максимум. И мы как раз сталкиваемся с тем, что сейчас стоимость таких специалистов в среднем падает, и бизнесы могут себе позволить благодаря AI нанимать разработчиков под тот фронт работ, который у них для них есть. Под те задачи, которые еще пару лет назад были бы для них недостижимыми ввиду недостаточности ресурсов для оплаты таких разработчиков.
Oybek, translate, please.
Yeah. So one of the issues is it's reducing the cost of development. The market has a huge demand on the business owners in the market has a huge demand on developing the different type of tools for the application, and they have the ideas. But one of the problems is now that business owners can hire junior developers instead of going like more experienced devs, because the costs will reduce. And one of the things might happen as well, like well-experienced senior developers might also lose some. It's harder them to get well financed, and and this kind of hiring junior devs to do a more senior task wasn't possible a few years ago, and now it's kind of in the market as well. So they can achieve their goals with paying less, and yeah. So that's it.
Well, Asrur or Abdul, I think either of you could perhaps have something to put in here.
Yeah, I certainly have something to say. Like, I'm gonna make a couple of points. One of them is like, where are we going and what will be available like in the immediate future and in the distant future. Like, what would be available in the instant future is that, have you all seen like the Milei, Argentina's new president Milei's speech being dubbed in different languages? Like, it was done within seconds. Like, he gave this wonderful speech and they dubbed it using lip sync, AI dubbing, and plus the translation mechanism. So what would be available like in the immediate future, someone will come up with this, like, it's a matter of like joining a couple of tools. Now they are doing it using like 2 or 3 tools different. And it will be a matter of time when Artyom would be speaking on the other side in Russian, and here will be listening, and his lips will be synced to English speech. That would be available immediately. Like, it's a matter of like, I don't believe it's years, but it's a matter of like months even. Because like one of the tools which have raised was used in the dubbing of the speech of Milei was 11 Labs. The 2 Polish founders came up with this, so it dubs really well, and like it is almost like you're speaking the speech. It keeps your accent in any language you're speaking to. So this is the distant future, and thousands of tools in different industries will appear. And this is wonderful and this is brilliant. Think about all the wonderful things that are happening in gene therapy. Like before, it was almost impossible what we've achieved within the last year in the gene, like the gene therapy science research which are going on. As regards to investing and the venture topic, like in the VC sphere, everybody when it started, everybody said like, look at how the coders are productive. So it means if a startup requires like $10 million Series A, now they should require like a $1 million Series A, because they don't require that much like the coding power, the head count for the company. But right now, it's not the case, and I don't think it's going to become that fast in the future. Maybe in a distant future, it will become a matter of like a company thinking of a enterprise resource management software which suits them and will able to like prompt their way to a solution. But right now, currently, and I don't think within a couple of years, it's not going to be there. And the software is, especially more experienced software developers, I think that are going to be needed. But the valuations are becoming lower and lower, because as like the investors are understanding that with this much money, now the developers are at least like 10 to 15% more productive. So instead of hiring 100 people, now you can hire 85-person teams for a startup. So this is the what's happening right now. And the funny thing, what's happening right now, like in Silicon Valley, almost like 9 out of 10 pitches include the word AI in it. So this is the immediate effect.
Nine out of 10. Does that not seem like a little bit of a saturation?
No, it does not. If you're not using whatever's latest technology, then like whatever's available, why should we invest in your company?
I think it's trendy word, just like sustainable development was for the last year, and then AI.
Or ESG?
All right. Yeah.
Here in Dubai, like if you add AI on top of the product you release is gonna go up, So they're so integrated. Almost every tool, everything is AI.
So there is a fear of your product losing value if you implement AI in it. It could actually increase it.
Yeah, for example, I was working in a startup a few months ago before it died out. It was HR tool that had to, that will help businesses to manage their teams and everything. At that time, we had integrated like AI. We could have saved the business because some of the competitors came in and started using AI stuff, which got more fun and everything. But the fact that if you have AI in certain services, like it's going to be increased. Like to take tools like Notion, for example, right? Grammarly, or take any other tools, like even some Word. Everyone has integrated, like the Miro boards, they have AI to generate the content, the graphs and everything. Like if you have AI that is useful for your task and that can speed up your workflow, everybody loves it.
Excellent. Nisu, do you have any closing remarks? We have a few minutes left, and then I need to leave the studio.
No, I think we all covered. If you want me to cover the political side a bit.
Or if you want, you and I can meet on a later date to really go in depth within that.
That'd be good.
I'm really excited to learn a bit more about that. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming. I know our conversation went a little bit all over the place. But for me, I enjoyed listening to all of your input, and it really helped clear some things up for me. And I appreciate all of you taking the time. Thank you, Oybek, David, Artem, Abdul, Asrur, and Niso for your incredible insights. And hopefully, thank you to our listeners tuning in to listen to SiliconSteppes. And let's see where AI is going to put us in the future.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, have a fantastic day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.